Okay, welcome everybody to this week's Azure and AI Show. And we have Daya with us there. She's going to do a talk. And we have Joseph back with us again. And Joseph is going to share with us as well. And we've got Hal with us. Hal is our MVP, 31 years. Congratulations again, Hal. And we have Julio there. So I'm going to share your screen there, Daya, and you can carry on. There you go. I can see it there now.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So, can I start or should I?
Yeah, you can start there. Yeah. Okay. And if we get any questions along the way, we can do them at the end. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So, thanks, Frank. So today's my topic is about securing enterprise AI actions, which is nothing but we will be using Foundry agent, and we'll see how we are going to secure with Entra identity and all the tools applicable. For example, we will see how to use the least privilege rules, approvals, guardrails, and also app rules. And we will bring an MCP server today and try to connect with Foundry agent with Entra authentication. So having said that, let me quickly give my introduction. So I'm Divya Akla. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Copilot Studio. I work as a responsible AI and Azure AI architect with Silva. And I'm author of Responsible AI in Practice. I'm a speaker, blogger, and PNP community contributor. Without any further delay, let's get started. So for this session, I'll be giving a small demo on employee self-service agent, kind of a leave provisioning agent or a software requesting agent, all in one place. Sorry, 1 second. Yes. Not able to move away from StreamYard. Give me 1 second.
Well, see, we just lost her there. She must have had some networking problems. So, yep, she's back again.
Sorry.
There we go. You got knocked out there for a second. Do you want to share your screen again with me?
I hope you see my screen.
There we go. We can see that there now.
Thank you. So as I said, I'll be going to demo one small agent, which is more about employee self-service portal. And I'll be showing all these 3 prompts, which is like show my employee profile and request a software license and show other employees record. Now, what we are trying to achieve is what should be allowed, what should be verified, and what should be denied. So what decides what should be allowed? The same interface asks for a personal read, and the same interface asks request for a license which needs extra pair of eyes, and the same interface asks some data which it should not. Now, how do we bind it with security, permission, and policy? These are the 3 topics that we are going to cover today. So the whole agent or the whole architecture is what defined here. As said, the Foundry agent is at the critical position here. The employee interacts with Foundry agent, and the Foundry agent is now governed with toolbox. And this toolbox is actually scoped with Entra ID. And also we have MCP services, again scoped with token from Entra ID. Now, how does this interact? So employee enters into the Foundry agent. There are 2 kinds of Foundry agents that we would be going to deal with. We'll see what's the difference, but yeah, basically they are going to deal with Foundry agent, and we have certain instructions I have already defined. And based on the context, whether user logs in behalf of the user or user logs behalf of the agent, the Entra ID responds or the MCP responds and give the answers accordingly. Now, each boundary is mapped by the agent that we are interacting, and now the agent is mapped with the security roles that are being defined. Now, how can this decision framework, or how can we say that a user is logged on behalf of a user, or if an agent is acting on behalf of a user, or agent identity, or project managed identity? So basically in Foundry, whenever you configure a tool, you have multiple options, that you are invoking it based on a user or based on OAuth, if to put it simple, or is it based on agent identity, or is it a project identity? Now, what is a user identity? User identity is nothing but if I'm logged in as an employee, the agent is acting on behalf of me. So what's the advantage of user agent? It preserves the user context. When it comes to agent identity or project management managed identity, it cannot preserve because the context is irrelevant of the user. Now, where we use each individual thing. Delegated user or user identity is used for a specific work, or a agent that needs to act on behalf of me. Say, for example, if I'm trying to submit a link, if I want agent to act on behalf of me, then I use a delegated user. If not, if I'm trying to execute a script, the script probably running through all SharePoint sites and find out where Apple has been broken, or any other autonomous task, a business flow which needs to be worked upon independently, doesn't require my inputs or my identity. That is where we use agent identity. Now, what is project managed identity? Project managed identity has a little larger scope, where a group of agents exists in a project. All the agents in Foundry, if you observe, is bound under a project. So it will act under the project's identity. Now, where would this be useful? It will be useful where specifically when we are designing one project for one purpose, and where there are huge A-to-A communications, agent-to-agent communications, or orchestrations. So if they all needs to bound to use one identity, then we use project management identities. Just to go further, uh, just to give further information, delegated identity, as I said, it needs that employee specific object ID. So OID would always be sent in the token. And of course, tenant ID, in both the cases or in all the cases, we would send the tenant ID. And as I promised, there will be employee services MCP, which I'll show you in a while, where the object ID would be sent and it would be verified with the employee ID present within the database that is already part of employee services MCP. And only if it matches, the data would be returned. And this is a strong fit, like as I said, when an agent needs to act on my behalf. Like, say, for example, I need to verify information which exists on the customer side, or I need to deploy a solution, then this is the best fit, because we cannot use service accounts. In that case, the accountability would start missing. Second type is the agent identity. Agent identity is, as I said, when a agent needs to act on behalf of a user. For example, if a HR is taking an aggregation of leaves that are accumulated over the year, or how many leaves has underutilized, or if we are executing a report, so there we can use a role based identity, or we call as agent identity. Now, in the same example where we are using employee service desk, we can say that we can use agent identity to get all the leave information. Whereas we cannot use the same identity to approve, because approval needs more authentication. Like if a user is requesting for a software, then probably there we need user identity rather than agent identity, because we do not want all the approvals to be anonymous, and it should be backtraced. The only thing that we need to verify in agent identity is all the role assignments after publishing, since the should be verified, since the published identity can differ from pre-published behavior. So the roles should mandatorily be verified. And how we are going to give this roles? Simple, with the existing Entra app registrations. Now today the whole topic that you are going to see, or how an agent is going to act on behalf of a user, which essentially means that if you have worked with Copilot Studio, we are just trying to mimic the Copilot Studio behavior, where an agent can act behalf of an user, like with specifying the user permissions or restricted with the user permissions. That is what we are trying to mimic. So for this, especially when we are going to agent identities, these roles would definitely be needed. When it comes to project identity, project managed identity, it goes for a larger scope. Say, for example, in one specific project, we have, say, HR related project, we have HR related question and answers, we have an agent for which is dealing with onboarding, and an agent which is dealing with benefits, and an agent which is dealing with offboarding. Now, in all these cases, we need not have HR specific identity. Probably it can have human in the loop, where HR says approve or reject, but the agents does not need to run with a specific identity. So in this case, we will use project identities, since all the agents are bound together, and they needs to share a specific workload. Say, for example, if an agent needs to complete, or if a user needs to complete his offboarding, then probably all leaves should be calculated. We have to verify all benefits, and then we would proceed with the offboarding. So here the HR permission is not really needed. Once the HR approves the process or triggers the process, this can happen independently. Now for this example, today's example, I'm going to show you the four API endpoints: get my profile, request software license, or get employee leave, and approve software licenses. So my MCP has this four endpoints. It has more endpoints. I'll just go there. But where we should use user identity, or where we should use agent identity. Now, get my profile is something which is very specific to the user. So there I cannot use agent or project identity. So it should be mandatorily the user identity. And same, the request software license should be either tagged to a laptop which is assigned to the user, or an user can directly request it. So since it is bound to user, it should be always user based identity, not agent based identity. Whereas get employee leave, it can be for specific user or many users, and this need not be tied to a specific user. Any HR or any authorized person can request these details. So once the authorization is verified, probably we need not attach the outcome to a user, but instead it can be attached to an agent. Whereas the last part, approval software license, software approve, it can be user identity, but not any and every user should be able to approve his own software. Like he cannot request a software and approve it. We'll see how we can mitigate that. And it should not be agent identity, because in that case we cannot backtrace it. So this is where we use both user identity and human in the loop approach. Probably not for today's session, because today's session itself is a long session. And this part, if we are very clear with what identity or what roles we can assign, probably half of the problem is solved. Now, how do we do these validations, or how do we validate these roles? All these roles are already part of the token that we are issuing. Now, when we need to authenticate, we use the signature, issuer, audience, and lifetime. Audience define which application we are trying to use it. For example, the MCP service is hosted on an app called service. Then we should definitely pass that audience. And token, it can be your bearer token, user token, where I'm trying to sign in. So all the information related to me, all the roles which I am part of, what is the scope I am part of. which tenant I am referring to. Audience we have already discussed, and which tenant is sure that we are defined to would all be captured in one single token claims. And based on this, the principal will be resolved and authorization can happen. So authorization can happen because based on the role, he can be accepted to perform this action or he can be denied to perform this action. A valid token doesn't automatically authorize an action. So the authorization is kind of a second step to what we have already done with the token part. Now this, I don't know if it's visible, but it's a simple token exchange. Sorry, it's a simple scope that I am defining in various examples that I am going to show you today. Probably will come to this in another slide where the sizes are better. But for now, let's continue with what we have. Now for the whole design, for the whole design, what I wanted to show you is the credentials we are not storing anywhere. We are passing the credentials, but it is not saved anywhere, whether it's a agent identity or whether it's a user identity. If it's a user identity, the Entra token gets exchanged. It is passed still onto the foundry. The MCP transport observes the system object ID, but not the entire token itself, and then sends the employee API data based on the role. There is no, we are not saving the token or the authorization in any system prompt, not even in conversation memory. No tool is saving your token. No logs is saving your tokens. No, so to put it blindly, we are not saving any bearer tokens. No client secrets are stored. So no credentials are actually compromised when you follow this approach. So usually what happens with the foundry-based agents, like as I see most of the cases, the MCPs are exposed without any app roles or without any authorization. So an end user, if he knows the endpoint, he would be able to traverse through all the actions. So we are trying to mitigate that basically. So how we are going to do, what we are going to do, that's what I'm going to walk you through. Let me get my code onto the screen. Please, one more second. Yes.
Yeah, we can see it there now. Yeah.
Sorry?
We can see your screen now.
Okay, thank you. So this is a simple MD that I have captured, but so this is the MCP application that I have created. Of course, I have used Copilot. I have used some Claude to create and generate the scripts. But the most important part of this is the employee service MCP. Now, what does this contain? This contains the details of specific employees, and I map my user ID to employee 1001, which is Aisha Shah. And so if you traverse through it, it has init which instantiates the server, main which defines the basic logging level, how a component is interacting with another, if I'm hosting locally, what is the IP address and the port, etc. But the most important thing is in the models where I'm defining the contracts on how an object would look like. Like if I'm requesting for an employee, how the response should look like. If I'm requesting for a profile result, how it should look like. If I'm requesting for a leave balance, what should it take? It should take a start date and end date and then return number of this kind of. Now I have a lot of endpoints that I have defined here. For example, leave requests, leave balance requests, employee leave request, software license request, etc. But for this demo, to keep it simple, I will be showing 1 to 2 endpoints. Now all the data is coming, as I said earlier, is coming from this PY. So it's a very static data. It is defined in repository.py. all this solution. I'll upload shortly to GitHub. Probably you can reference from there. And the most important part of the whole topic is server, where we define the identity providers. So I have defined one dummy identity provider, and also I have defined an Entra identity provider. Dummy to verify, to get it verified locally, just to see if the MCP is performing well, behaving well, etc. Entra identity provider is needed for me to show you with my credentials, and all the information with respect to the environment is already stored in .env file, and we are actually using this Entra. So that's about server.py, server Python file, and service defines what are all the scopes that needs to be defined, or what are all the permissions that need to be defined. And say, for example, if leave.read.employee, it would be giving or outputting these values. Now, rest of the code that you are seeing on the left hand side, it's more about tests, what tests I have executed, how the work has been done, and how would I deploy this. And since I have done some testing locally, so all this, how do I host locally? So all these are defined in scripts. Probably not required, since we are going to deploy this MCP. I have already deployed this MCP onto a function container. So how do you do? It's a simple Azure function command. Probably I can leave that in the chat. And okay, let me close this so that I'll show you what all I have already done. So I already have this endpoint created in the Azure function container, and I have a account, tenant, subscription details, etc. Azure resources I'll walk you through now in few minutes, but this is essentially about MCP. So if you are not comfortable with MCP, think of this as any other API service that we are exposing it to Foundry. Now, how do we secure the authentication between a Foundry agent and this MCP? This MCP, when we deploy, we will deploy we doesn't do any authentication. We'll just deploy. Now, how do we protect? Now, to protect, let me quickly go back to our Azure portal. So this is my Azure portal. Here I have 3 app registrations basically. I have many app registrations, but I have created 3 app registrations. So the first app registration is with respect to the MCP. The MCP service, since it is already exposed, I'm configuring this app registration so that user has to authenticate via this user, or whether it's a user or another client application or another service, it has to request via employee services MCP. Now, a few things that I wanted to highlight here is, so I have defined all the scopes here on what I wanted to expose. So as I said, I'm not walking through all the, or I'm not exposing all the requests. It is just that five factors out of 8 services from MCP is what I'm creating, which means that only 5 services should be exposed at any point of time even when you are trying to use the URL directly. And the second thing, which is app roles. So app roles define if you are trying to use agent where you want not anonymous, but it is not tied to user scope. then we have to define those in app roles. Like for example, if I need to read all employee level details, read all employee level details, I should use these two applications, but yeah, I was testing something, so I used both user groups and applications and apply. So one thing that I wanted to highlight specifically is, if you are trying to use delegated user control, the scope should be exposed via ad scope, and if you are trying to read it with agent based authentication or project based authentication, then definitely the roles has to be defined here. Now when we go to the client side part of this, we will see how we will be using this. So other than that, the only thing that I have done is generated a secret, keep it safe with you, and no other permissions exposure. If you see here, there is no other permissions exposure, just that offline access, it's not mandatory. I have added user.read exists by default. I haven't done any roles or any administrator level access, just simple roles and scopes that has been exposed. And one important thing is, not here. The redirection exists in the client side. So if you see here, these are the two app registrations that I have created. Why two app registrations? I'll tell you when we are we are talking through the agent side of it. So one app registration where I wanted a delegated access, and second app registration where I wanted a project based authentication or agent based authentication. So I'll just walk you through what exists here. A simple app registration which I have created using like new registration. It's as simple as that, and only configuration that we would be using is the scopes. So while adding permissions, all I need to choose is, since I have already defined the MCP, I have to select my MCP. If it is a user-based authentication, always delegated permissions. And I chose employee read, leaves submit, and software request. These are the 4 permissions I have chosen, though there were 8 kind of requests. Since I have exposed only 4 scopes, that is what it is using. And user.read exists by default. And the other important thing is only the redirection part. There is. So the other important part is you have to generate a secret and keep it safe. I'll show where it has to be used in. This is for client app where we are using on behalf of a user, or I can call it as a delegated app as well. And the second part of the app is the employee leave review agent app. So any app you can create, but all you need to do is when adding API permissions, you have to choose same employee service app that we have created earlier. So if I start creating everything from the scratch, I don't know what will break. So here all the delegated permissions, all the application permissions that we have created as app roles would appear here. So you can choose accordingly. For the demo, I have chosen only leaves.read out, which means I would have permissions to read other users' data as well, not just leaves. I just named it as leaves, but then I changed because I need to read other data, and leaves was a bit challenging. Now, since I have defined both agent level permissions, or we can use this as a agent level permission or project level permission, no issues. But always every agent or project, we should create this app registration and keep it safe. So where we are going to use. just switch to your Microsoft Foundry. This is something that I have already tested, but I just wanted to walk you through from the scratch. First, we'll talk about user level permissions or delegated user permissions, where I'll try to create an agent for on behalf of a user. Now, since the MCP is already part of this ecosystem or Azure ecosystem, I can add that MCP as a tool. Now, how do I add as a tool? If you want to reuse a specific tool across multiple applications, I would suggest you to start from here, or you can start from here as well. Since I have some tools already, I'll just try to add a tool from scratch. Since we are talking about MCP, it exists in custom, and here is the option to select it. Now I'll say get employee specific data. Let me get all the necessary information. Give me 1 second. Just part of my Visual Studio Code. So that it is easy for me to copy paste. Yes. And I have this employee service point. So MCP endpoint. As I said, MCP, I have deployed it in the Azure functions using few commands. That's it. And since I wanted to use it with my own identity, I need to use OAuth identity pass through, and the client ID and the client secret. So for on behalf of user, we are using this app registration. So I would basically copy this client ID. Sorry. Client ID. The client registration, sorry, the client secret. Since I did not save it, let me create one quickly. And the token URL, auth URL, and refresh URL, this would not change. This would not change for from tenant to tenant except for the tenant ID part. So let me just copy paste it. So first is auth URL or authorize URL. The format would remain the same except for the ID part, tenant ID part. Sorry. So it says login.microsoftonline.com/tenant ID /worth2/v2.o/authorize. That's it. It doesn't change basically except for the tenant ID. If you are trying to use for it for your own tenant ID, yeah, feel free to by changing the tenant ID. And scopes, we have to give all the scopes. Now let me copy the scopes. 1 second, give me 1 second. I missed to save it. But meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask me. I just need to copy that whole long string. Okay, let me copy. Let me copy one by one. Yes, I did cannot find it. So I have to copy this with comma separated. Sorry, space separated. I hope I'm right. I'll just compare this with the existing tool so that I'm not confused. I didn't save it. So this is what we are looking for. And just say connect. Once we say connect, basically what we are trying to use is the app registration should be the app registration or the app is added to this tool, and the important thing is you have to copy this and go back to the app registration and add this as a redirect URL. Now, where do you do that? You do it not here, basically here. So I think I missed the place, but there is a option to add the redirect URL. It should be somewhere here. Yeah, here. Since one app is already working, I do not want to disturb this, and I cannot add duplicate redirect URL for the same platform. I'll be using the other app to test this data. But having said that, we can always add this. Like I can just edit this and say, I'll lose this. 1 second, please. I will not lose it. Let's see. And I have to configure. So with this, the configuration should be complete, and your tool is readily available. Let's see how it performs. And I'm using the playground. I did not navigate from anywhere, and I did not save or publish it. Just said hi. Now, if it gives me data directly, that means the delegated user access is not working, but it asked me for the consent. Let me open the consent. It's basically asking if I allow the access. Since I'm already logged in, it says my authentication is successful, and I can go back. I can go back safely. Let me close this and go back safely. So it says my sign-in is successful. So 2 things I'm going to ask. Show my profile, which nothing but I'm asking my own employee data. As I said, my object ID is mapped to 1001. And here it shows, see, you're asking for my profile and the context is get my profile. And one thing to note here is I always approve for this tool. I'm using GPT 4o. So depending on the GPT model that you are using, the performance can vary. So it says that these are my details, and my department is engineering, and my manager's employee ID is EMP2001. Now I'll try to get the information from my manager. So it says that the data is not available to the data is not available at counter. So if it counter says fictional or internal organization in Microsoft documentation, the data may not be publicly available. But if you have employee's full name, role, or department, you can still say. So I'll just verify what is the employee's 2001's name. One second, in repository.py. I'll just ask, can you get the information of Nova? Nova is another user, not me. Let's see how it behaves, if it is able to go beyond my identity and get the information. It says the same. It cannot get any information. Let me also give the full name since it is asking continuously for it. So it says that it cannot locate. Now let's go to the other part of it. It has provided my data, but it is not going beyond my information. So the delegated user access, I hope it is working well. Now, how do we do the agent level access or anonymous access, which we usually use for a scheduled agents or agents that have to complete certain business flows? So for that, I'll build one more agent, simple agent. So build an agent. Let's say get other employees information. Info. Again, I have to add a new tool because existing tool works on behalf of the user. Now, I do not want existing tool or to work on behalf of user. I want to use either agent identity or project identity. Project identity is nothing but, if you see here, these are the projects. So every agent is part of a project. So I can use the project identity or agent identity. One thing is to note when you are dealing with project identities is, if you do not publish your agent, it will by default work with agent identity. So if you are planning to use project identity, then ensure that the agent is published. Oh, I didn't give the prompt in the previous case as well. One second, let me get the beautiful prompt. I didn't save the instructions. So I just said that this tool is used for, or this agent is used to get other employees' information from the MCP tool, and always greet the user and ask the user first on what he needs and then invoke the tool again. Now, same procedure. Either we can use an existing tool or we can create a new tool. But for us to walk through this, I'll create a new tool. It's simple. I am creating a tool to get all employees data, so I'll name it accordingly, all employees info fetch, because I have created so much data since morning, so I just wanted to use. Let me preview. I'll copy the same MCP endpoint. Sorry. MCP endpoint, and the only difference here is you should use Microsoft Enter. It's not unauthenticated. Do not go for unauthenticated bots. There is no point in going unauthenticated bots unless you are deploying an agent on a massive scale. Even then, we would suggest don't go for an unauthenticated bots. So as I said, you can use agent identity or project managed identity. And the only thing here you have to use is the scope of the client that we have created. The client ID of the agent that we have created. Since this agent deals with the employee permissions where it can read other employees' data, I'll just copy this information and we are good to go. This one, sorry. As I said, since I have used project managed identity, first I need to save it and publish it, and then I can start using it. Otherwise, it would throw unnecessary errors, which I do not want to show on this stage. I'll just say hi. So this error is coming since morning, not sure why, but it is still getting the data. It can be reached from Microsoft, or there is some minor error that I am doing with the employee data of 200. So I'm using other employees data, which you can see here. So it asks me to confirm the MCP tool name, so which I am going to specify the tool name. Since my instructions are bad, so it's trying to get information. It's going in the it did not get any useful information. Just let me copy the instructions from other agent. save it and refresh it. As I said, this is an error that I'm fetching regularly. Show me mail. First, I'm asking my information if it is able to get it or not. Let's see. Just to test the server, test the connectivity. So it's earlier, if you have observed, it was able to identify that my user ID is AMP1001. Now it is not able to identify because we have used project or project authentication. Even if you use agent authentication, it will still be have the same. So I would just say that it is EMP1002, just to see whether it is able to fetch the data of other user or not. So it says that EMP1002 already corresponds to Noah Williams from the finance department. So let me bring back that Visual Studio code just for you to verify the information. You see EMP1006, sorry, EMP1002, it's EMP1002, it's Noah Williams, so which matches the agent information that it has fetched. EMP1002 and Noah Williams, and she is from finance department. Exactly the info that we have proposed it. So what kind of authentication really depends on what is your use case, and based on the use case you need not leave your MCP tool with all the data exposed, and I would say use it accordingly. Now what happens during the whole process or procedure, it only depends on very minute things, how you have created your app registration. That's the only thing that is deciding whether it is agent authentication or delegated user authentication. Now I have completed this only till here. So the second part probably some other time, where we will try to see how human review happens in the whole process, and how an outcome would be based on what the token carries. Now the demo proves that on first part of it, where when it is acting on behalf of an user, the first part is what I have demoed, not 2 and 3 or 5 and 6. And it is able to ask, show my employee profile. Yeah, it has created. And when it is working as an agent or working on an agent identity, it is demonstrating the behavior of like a super user. Now, how the whole thing worked, user has input. We have called a tool, just one tool call, and the tool was able to respond and agent is able to output. Now, just to go beyond this, Azure already has, or the agents already has built-in guardrails. So we can configure the guardrails. So for example, to not to emit any harmful input or not to take any harmful input and not to output any harmful inputs. Say even tool, it should not input any hate or sexual or self-harm related information. So all these are pre-configured. The only thing is you have to click on guardrails, create this and apply this to your agent or bot, whatever it is. So it is as simple as this, like responsible AI has come as a single part in how you are creating your bot. Now, if you see how the agents work, we are naming the authority, we are granting the minimum permissions wherever is applicable, and deny wherever is not applicable. So 403 is not need not always be a bad request. It can be a good request depending on the use case. So, for example, when I'm trying to request another employee, when I'm acting as a delegated user, which is an expected test. Human approval, recheck, all these are concepts for another day. And record the evidence, probably I did not have the time to log or put application insights into the place, but if I complete the whole thing, this is how it would look like. Already the Python and the MCP server is part of Docker file, and I have deployed using bicep templates onto Azure. And the container pulls the information from, or puts the information onto the MCP container and analytics workspace. And as I said, if you would have seen, we are not storing any client secrets anywhere else except for the client app register. Thank you so much. I know I have gone above my time, but and the important thing is, it is not only we have to decide what it has to have access to, what it should not allow access to is very important. And all the slides I'll shortly upload into my website or onto GitHub, so you can just monitor and get the details. Thank you, Frank and Azure Azure and AI Show for this wonderful opportunity.
Thanks very much. Great demonstration, and it's great to see more stuff about the agents coming out. We had one thing there from Amelia. 1 second now. So I'll just put it up on the screen. There you can see Amelia Hernández. Go, go, go. There, yeah. Yeah, so Hal said most impressive. Like that. She's got
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I think
She might join us again. Give her a second. She had a lot of stuff open, so maybe her network was. Yeah.
I was just going to commend her for a very beautiful presentation, very expository, and very confident throughout the presentation. Right, and I see a lot of things, and yeah, nice job.
And we'll see if she comes back on again. We'll give her a second. Next week, Amelia Hernández. Amelia is going to be hosting next week for me and the following week. So I'll just send her a message. Can she log in again?
Hi, Julio. First time meeting you here. How are you?
Good. Yes.
Makes sense. All right.
One second now. Just send her a message there, and she might pop back in again. Let's give her a second. She's going to join again. 1 second now. Have you been doing any stuff around the agents, Joseph?
Not really. I've been busy with some other basic stuff, just trying to come back online after a very long engagement. So I think I'll be looking at those areas soon anyway.
Very
How
good.
about you? I know you probably have done a lot already, right?
I've met a good few agents now, all right. But there's some new stuff with Copilot Studio where you can put agents inside other agents.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you got an agent and it's called M365 agent, and
Mm-hmm.
then oh, there you are again. Can you hear us?
Yes, Frank.
Yeah. Great presentation. And we had, one second now, I'll just put you up here and Joseph over there. We had Amelia sending in this message to you during the presentation. Go, Daya.
Okay.
So that's great. Um, we didn't have any questions come in, but if anyone has any questions, they can send it in on LinkedIn. And we have it, it's been recorded. It's on LinkedIn Live. It's on Joseph's YouTube channel, and it's on my YouTube channel as well. So if anybody needs to look back on it. So thanks very much. And
Yeah.
we hope to have you back again soon.
Yeah. So I just want to also
Thank you. Thank you all.
commend Dia for a very wonderful presentation. You did a very, very great job. So I had to quickly send you a connection request on LinkedIn. So great job you had there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll definitely accept it after this call. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thanks. Frank.
Okay, we'll be back again next week at the same time. Thank you, everyone.
Always a pleasure.
Mhm.